Hello! As you can see, I'm doing yet another movie review with him.
Hello once again, YouTubes.
Now, if you've been watching my reviews recently, you know me and him recently reviewed the film Psycho. So now we're reviewing the sequel, Psycho 2. Now, Psycho 2 came out in 1983, and the film is actually written by Tom Holland, who would go on to write and direct movies like Fright Night and Child's Play and The Langoliers, and
The Langoliers.
Yeah, he did that. But, well, he wrote the screenplay for that and directed it. Of course, it was based on a Stephen King story, but,
Scaring those little girls.
Yeah. Okay, but Psycho 2... Now, what's interesting about this movie is Robert Bloch, who wrote the book Psycho, actually wrote a sequel to his book Psycho, interestingly enough, called Psycho 2. However, the book Psycho 2 was essentially about a, basically it was set like years and years after the events of the book, and Hollywood was making a movie about what Norman Bates did, and in the book, Norman Bates, I never read the book Psycho 2, but in the book, Norman Bates actually escapes from an institution and tries to stop the production of this movie. Now, Universal hated the book, and they did not want the movie Psycho 2 to be based on the book, so instead we got this movie. Now, Psycho 2 is a sequel that really should have sucked, because, for one, it's a sequel to a film that is arguably a film classic, a film that really did not need sequels.
Not even just that, just the way they ended it was, if you ask me, just perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't need a sequel.
Yeah, but not just that, you already have a sequel to the book, and this sequel isn't following the sequel to the book, so really this is a film that should have sucked, but I personally love Psycho 2. Now, what did you think of Psycho 2, being this was your first time seeing it?
Yes, this is my first time seeing it, and holy crap, I was thoroughly impressed with the movie. Like, you know how people say that Rise of the Planet of the Apes was the prequel that the Planet of the Apes didn't need?
Yeah.
But they made a pretty good prequel to a series that didn't need it?
Yeah. This
is basically that in sequel form. Holy crap, I love this movie.
Yeah. Now, the plot of Psycho 2 is it's set 20-something years after the events of the first one, and Norman Bates... Now, we're going to give away a spoiler of what happened in the first one.
Yeah.
In the first one, you find out Norman Bates was the killer, and he had split personality, and it turns out years earlier he killed his mother, and he has split personality, and he actually thought he was his mother.
Yeah.
Essentially, this movie is 20 years later, he's being released from the psychiatric hospital.
He's clinically sane.
Yeah, and what happens is they bring back another character from the first one, the sister of Marion Crane, the woman who he murdered in the first one. She does not like that he's being released from the hospital, and, you know, what happens is he gets released, he seems to be sane, but he starts, long story short, he starts receiving messages from his mother.
Yeah, he returns home. He returns home to the hotel and everything, and just strange sequences pan out, and apparently it's like messages and illusions.
Yeah.
Of his mother basically coming back into his subconscious. It
appears in the film that there might be somebody messing with Norman Bates.
Yeah.
And in the film, Norman Bates develops a relationship with this girl.
With one of his co-workers, yeah.
Yeah, because he gets a job at a diner. And I actually think the film did a really good job with their relationship. I thought they had really good chemistry with each other.
Yes. That's one of the things. What made it so fascinating is that, of course, in the first one, you kind of see him as the killer in the whole thing. This time you kind of see where his life could have gone if, you know, his mother wasn't, you know, an overprotective, crazy person. Yeah. And you actually see a great relationship develop between Norman and this girl. And it really was fascinating, because this movie, you get that part of it, and you also get the killer side of it, too. And it was just... It contrasts those two elements, I think, brilliantly.
Yeah, and what I love about this movie is you just see him really kind of put his life back together, and
or trying to,
yeah,
at least.
And what I like about this also is he's really the main character in this movie.
Yes.
In the first one, it was really more of the sister of Marion Crane in the first.
Yeah.
In the first one, in this one, it's really about him, and he really is the lead character. And one thing that I'm so glad they didn't do is I'm so glad they didn't make this like your typical slasher film or something.
Yeah, no, it focused on the characters, Norman Bates in particular, and like I said, it contrasted those elements very well, actually, not pretty well, extremely well, impressively well.
And I do feel like there's definitely some black comedy in the film. Like, there are even some points where Norman Bates himself makes little jokes here and there.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's subtle enough. They're basically references to the previous movie, but no, it was very cleverly done.
Yeah, and of course Anthony Perkins once again returns to play Norman Bates, and does a really good job actually. You know.
Yeah.
What I like about this though is they really did. I think they treated this sequel with a lot of respect.
A lot of respect. Yes, I was impressed with the story. I actually was on the edge of my seat. Like usually a movie like this would be kind of cliche, and I was on the edge of my seat. And it took me a good portion of the movie to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. And
eventually figure it out. And I gotta say, the cinematography was quite impressive for a movie like this, because when I looked at this case, I look at it like kind of like a B movie type of thing.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like some of the camera shots were kind of interestingly shot. Like you really, especially the shots inside the house where it kind of shows him basically included or caged in the house. You know.
Yeah.
It was. Like I said, it's a decent sequel. Very well done.
Yeah.
Thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, it's a very, very good movie. Do you have any complaints about it? I mean, it is a review. We gotta give some...
The ending, I don't want to spoil it. The ending a little bit at the very, very end. And I'm not really sure. Basically, the majority of my complaints were actually the ending a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to say why. I'm trying to figure out the right words. It's weird. I didn't have a problem with it, but I did.
Well, obviously I don't want to give away the ending, but tonally the ending's a little... doesn't really match the tone that well.
Yeah, okay. At the very end, I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but basically it ends on a pretty comedic way after the film takes itself extremely serious.
Well, when we say comedic, it's not like a full-fledged comedy. It's definitely...
It just doesn't fit.
Dark comedy, though, at the very end.
You really think so? Because it just didn't mesh with the rest of the tone of the film.
Yeah.
Like I said, it like focused on Norman Bates and the whole thing. It was very dark and kind of gritty a little bit at times. And then it just ends on like that, like, yeah, we don't care anymore. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It just... I felt like it didn't match. It didn't mesh very well.
Now, finding out what the plot line of the book Psycho 2 was, you think it would have been a better film if they followed the plot line of the book? Where
that he escaped and tried to prevent the movie from being made?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Like I said, I'm thoroughly impressed with this movie because I went in extremely low and we actually got a decent sequel out of this.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, they made more sequels, and I haven't seen Psycho 3 in a couple of years now, but I remember it not being too good, but
that's going
to be my review. I don't think my friend's going to be able to join me for that review, but
maybe.
Yeah, stay tuned for my review on Psycho 3.
Check this out. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, check out
I recommend it. Holy crap. You will not be disappointed.
And catch you all at a later time.